Alright, so today I'm going to introduce to you guys this grid-style drawing. Now, I'm not going to spend the entire day sitting here and doodling up. In fact, well, to be fair, I will, but you won't have to sit here and do it with me or watch me do it. But I'm going to give you kind of a quick breakdown and then basically let you guys kind of go on your own while I continue to work on mine. So that basically by the end of the day, we'll all have a singular drawing ready to go. Now, what's nice about the grid method, is the fact that, like I mentioned before, you can make this thing as large as you want. So if you're doing a mural, and let's say you don't have a projector or somewhere you can trace or whatever, if you're doing a mural, it is an excellent way of very quickly doing a quick doodle, like a thumbnail, right? Looking at the wall and being like, all right, 14, 18, whoop, and you enlarge it very, very quickly, very, very easily. A couple things that are almost mandatory with the grid method are a ruler, because you got to make sure these things line up, right? So you got to have a ruler of some sort, and you got to have something to draw as well. So let's see. So I've got myself a National Geographic. This one here is from 1993. So the most recent issue that I could find. So let me just see here. So I'm going to look for a photograph, but I want a photograph that's maybe like half a page, or see, that's too small. I need like a bigger picture. I don't want to start too small. Thank you for leaving me scraps, guys. That's so nice. There's a little baby in a cart. That's something. Hold on. Oh, here. Yes. Yes, crying old wrinkly lady. Perfect. All right, so.
Who was president in 93?
Phil.
What?
Oh, she's crying. Yeah, there's literally a tear right there. All right.
Whoever the president was back then, she's crying.
All right, so here's the deal. Now, if I were to tell you guys right now that your entire grade for this project is completely and utterly based on whether or not you can draw this picture photorealistically, how many of you would get an A?
I would cry.
Right? Totally, right? Because it's gonna be really freaking hard to draw this thing photorealistically. Like it's a photo. How do I draw a freaking photo, right? Now, I could, let's see if I can get this on the screen here. I can sit here and I can use the methods we already know, right? So I could block it in. All right, hang on one second. Let's see. Okay, so cranium. Right, there's the cranium kind of divided up. We know how to do this. 1, 2, 3. We know this is all right. She's kind of looking off to the side, so there's the nose kind of in here. Oh my god, this is going to take forever. And it is not going to look good. She's got like creepy, like demon eyes. She looks like the devil. All right, here's this thing. What is going on with this mouth? She's got like demon teeth. Wrinkly, like I think I'm just drawing the devil. Pretty sure that's what's happening here. Yeah, we've completely devolved now. Whoa! This is fire.
It's the Dracula from
No, he added fire. It's the devil.
Van Helsing.
It looks like an enemy from Castlevania.
Yeah. So all right. So probably, even though I know how to block in a portrait, let's be fair, not going to happen with wrinkly crying lady, right? We're just not there yet. Eventually, you can get to that level. I absolutely promise you. But for right now, it's an Art 1 class. We are not going to spend 14 years trying to figure out how to actually precisely block things in. So instead, I'm going to do something a little bit different. Okay, here we go. So instead, I'm going to take old trusty ruler that I apparently stole from the Navy. Thank you, America's Army. All right, I'm going to go through here. Now, I'm not going to bother gridding off my entire page. Well, maybe I should. Why not? All right, here's a little fun fact for you if you didn't know already. So we've talked before about T-squares, right, and how basically I can use this edge right here to kind of line up to the edge of my paper, and that gives me a nice, perfectly straight line, right? But let's say you don't have a T-square. If you didn't know already, a fun thing that you can do is grab a ruler, assuming that it has a nice flat edge, and kind of line that up to the edge of your paper. Assuming that the edge of your paper is nice and straight, which, you know, it should be. I paid good money for it. Assuming that it is, then I'll have a nice straight line as well, right? So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to make a grid, and for the sake of this example, and again, just because we're going kind of quickly, I'm going to do a 1-inch grid. So every inch, I make a little tick mark here. Okay, so something like that, right? I'm going to do the same thing down here. Let's see. Okay, so uno, dos, tres, cuatro, cinco. Okay, so grid, right? Now I'm gonna take 3 seconds here because I'm really good and I'm super quick, right? Watch this. Zoom! Oh gosh, how did he go so quickly? I don't understand. I'm fascinated as I sit here and watch a grown man draw a grid on a piece of paper. It's hypnotizing, really. That's true, right? Just remember, guys, worst case, you're right. It's better than math.
No math is better.
You're welcome to leave.
Yes, please.
We would be pleased. Alright, so I'm hammering out this grid. Again, just like you did for your 1-point projects, right? Please make sure, take the time to make sure that these lines are perfectly straight. Because if they're all winkly wobbly, which is a new word, if they're winkly wobbly, you don't want them because they're going to end up messing up the picture, making it look all cubist and jacked up, and that's no good. That's not true. That's just a lie. Ugly lines tell each other.
And on the
All right, so took me about 14 seconds. Ta-da! There's my grid. It's beautiful. All right, so then, all right, crying lady. Here she is. Now I can't. It's plasticky, right? This is a gloss paper. You can tell it's all shiny, right? So my pencil isn't going to do crapole. So instead, you're going to want to make sure that you grab a marker of some sort. I would suggest, darker, or excuse me, kind of, make sure that you can see it, especially if your picture is dark like this. So I'm going to go through and grid this. Now here's the key. I want to fit this picture on this paper. So I can go 1 to 1. So I can do like a grid of 1 inches and then just match it exactly. But you notice that this paper, or excuse me, the magazine is smaller than paper. Maybe I want to enlarge my picture. So I'm actually going to do this. I know that these squares are 1 inch by 1 inch. So I'm going to do a 1/2 inch by 1/2 inch grid over here. And you may find whenever you do your picture that you want to do a 1/4 inch by a 1/4 of an inch grid. It doesn't really matter as long as the only key is it has to be perfectly straight and they have to be the same. So you can't do like 1 inch grid here and like a 15-inch grid over here. Like it has to be a grid, perfect little squares. Okay. So I'm going to use a Sharpie for the sake of example. So let's do a 1/2 inch grid. And yes, in case you're wondering, we are drawing directly over top of the old lady's face. Don't worry about preserving it, because when we're done with this photo, we're going to throw it away. Because she means nothing to us.
Not even to the recycle bin.
I wonder if the art one is like something, or just like ruining it.
Okay. Now I will tell you this too, just as a fun factoid. Remember that the markers that we're using are water-based, so give them a second to kind of dry, because otherwise you're going to have a weird markery mess on your hands. That will not be good. I asked around, and they said not good. That's what they said. Don't blame me. They did it. All right, so I'm just going to go through and grid off Grandma. This one obviously you want to be a little more precise on, because if you mess up, well then you've ruined Grandma's face and she won't appreciate it any more than I will. Now, can anyone come up with, just kind of extrapolating in your head on what I'm doing here, what is a problem that we're going to run into in about 3 seconds whenever I'm done with this grid?
We'll be able to fit some of the lines.
Okay, so 8 things were said at once. Try me again, only take turns.
We'll be able to see the lines in the black.
Not being able to see the lines in the black. Okay, all right, that's a good one. That's a good one. So, as for that, the upside is the fact that it is gloss paper. So, me, myself, I can kind of look at it and I can see the lines. Maybe you guys can't because this projector kind of blows, but that shouldn't be too much of a problem. And even then, if it's in pure black, who cares? Because it's just pure black. You're going to shade it in, with some dark value anyway. What's another problem? Tab, you had a thought, but I didn't totally hear what you said.
There's going to be either too many squares or not enough squares.
Too many squares or not enough squares. Totes, magoats, yo. So, check it, right? So here's Grandma, right? She apparently just got arrested and put in behind some like chicken wire or something. She had it coming. Crying in public like that? Come on.
It's illegal.
It is. It should be. So here's the problem, right? So let's see. Now I'm going to kind of exclude. So let's see. I'm going to kind of fold off my negative space for a second, okay? So I don't need all this junk. That's all poop. I don't need that. Okay. And you guys can choose to fold it. You don't have to. This is just kind of making my life a little bit simpler to see what the heck I'm doing. You can even take scissors and like cut this crap off because we don't need it. So I'm gonna actually crop a little bit of her face here because there was that weird ripped paper there. All right. So here's my paper, right? But this is totally a square, and this is totally not a square. It is a rectangle, right? So the problem that you run into is basically what's called cropping, right? The fact that I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and over here I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Grandma's losing something, right? So here's the deal. And the best part is you have the choice, right? So I can totally crop out like half of Grandma's face, right? We can do that way. Or I can crop out some of this negative space. I'm going to go with that one, but you don't have to. You get to choose. If you want a weird, like, asymmetrical, crazy black background picture, great. All right, so there's that. So I've cropped the width. Now I got to crop the height, right? So here I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I've only got 7. All right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. All right, so I can crop at like Grandma's nose, right? But that's kind of weird looking, right? So what if I cropped, how could I do this? All right, so I've got to fit 7 in here. So let's see, 1, maybe crop off the top 2. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I can just get Grandma's chin. Or I can go another one down and I can get literally her wrinkled chin. And I really like that. I don't want to let go of that wrinkly chin. So I'm going to crop 3 down on the top. Yeah, now we're just into like Wrinkleville. There is no gender going on. This is just wrinkly face person. I'm sure this person will be, I'm sure she's dead now. I mean, let's be honest, right? It's 1993, this photo was taken. This person is dead. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Almost there. There we go.
What if she's like 120?
That could be.
Alive.
That could be. All right, so here's my picture, cropped and ready, right? So you have to go through this process first. You gotta find your photograph, grid it off, right? And again, depending on the size, if you want to do 1/4 inch scale, half-inch scale, or an inch scale, I would not go any smaller than a fourth. If you do like 1/8 inches, you're just into like teeny tinyville, and it's gonna end very poorly. A 1/4 inch, honestly, is kind of what I'm expecting most of you guys will use. All right, so I've got my picture. I know that the ratio of this crop, right, the width and the height matches the width and the height of my paper, right? Cool. All right, so here's the deal, and I'm going to show you the first 2 squares. I'm going to let you guys get to work, and I'm going to continue working in the meantime, okay? So here we go. My biggest suggestion is this. You're going to be super tempted to sit down and like Battleship style be like, A4, you sunk my eyeball. I promise you, drawing weird squares at a time and bouncing around is going to end up really, really bad. I promise you it's not going to work well. My biggest suggestion for this project, after you've cropped it and everything, is literally start in the top corner or pick a corner, I don't really care, and literally just like a robot, like just go 1 square at a time, okay? So, something that you're going to find as you're drawing, it's going to happen. Do not get stressed. This is going to happen, okay? I'm going to zoom in here real quick, like, look at that face. Oh, so beautiful, right? Way to go, Grandma. Look at you. Lighten this up a little bit. All right, so, what? Yep. All right, so here's the deal. So I'm going to start with this top square. Here's my top square, right? Top men. Okay, so here's the deal. Whenever you're drawing, you want to draw just in this square. Now, if you're someone who's having a really hard time with this, you are thinking to yourself, I am lost, I am confused, I'm ripping paper off screen. If you're thinking that, what I would suggest is that you get a couple pieces of scratch paper and like literally like block out the sun. Block out what you don't need, because it can be really confusing. You want to draw the eyebrow, but again, when you're zoomed in like this is not an eyebrow. This is like skin value, shadow, and like fuzzy thing, right? That's all it is. So, drawing just this square, I can see there's some like shading right here, so I'm going to kind of add in some shading, or I could just draw a line, because all this is going to get drawn over eventually. So there's some shading right there. Looks like this kind of comes here and over, maybe about halfway on the square. So let's see, halfway's here, kind of comes here and over, so there's like some fuzzy stuff there, okay? So, literally, this square is that, the end. Done deal, don't question, it's going to be abstract and goofy looking, but that's okay. All right, you're not drawing an eyebrow, you're drawing a square. All right, so then I'm gonna go to the next one. Ching, ching. Okay, sound effects help. All right, here we go. So, whoop. All right, next square. Line up my little graph here. Okay, next square looks like about halfway in this square, about halfway. And again, you're only going one square at a time. If it doesn't line up, don't worry about it. Okay, halfway I've got these weird fuzzies. And just kind of scribble scrabble, like really truly, does not have to be pretty. As you go along, you may find that you're gonna have squares that have way more detail, like this eyeball down here, right? Let's go one down, okay? This eyeball has way more detail than I can totally handle. Like it is just too much, right? So my suggestion is grab out Yo marker and make it the grid smaller, right? By dividing this square into a half again, I now have smaller squares. So I'm no longer drawing an eyeball. What I'm drawing is just kind of the shapes that are in these squares. If you want to go a little more angular, just for the sake of argument for right now, you can. Because the key is this, when you're all said and done, you're going to go through and like smooth this out. Roundy out, it'll look great, okay? But at first, if your lines don't quite match up, truly, do not stress about it, okay? Let's see, I'm going down here, starts here, kind of ends here. Notice like this eyeball does not look like a great eyeball. That is okay by me. Little eyelashes in there. It's probably where her tears have collected over the years. Okay. So you get the idea, right? So if you need more detail, go even smaller. But the key is the more and more you add, even though it's going to look a little abstract, it's going to look a little angular, kind of like that Chuck Close stuff we looked at, right? It's going to look a little bit off here and there. But when you're all done drawing your picture, you're going to go through and you're going to smooth this stuff out, right? So, okay, obviously there's a weird little cut right there. I don't want that. So I'm going to kind of round this out, round out that pupil, put the glare back in the pupil, kind of fade that in. A little bit of cast shadow because we know that it's there. And all of a sudden I've got a perfectly correct, per this photograph, a perfectly correct eyeball that is ready to go, right? So all I'm going to do is this. I'm going to start on the top and just hammer through each one of these squares one at a time, and I'm going to leave the projector on while I'm doing it so you guys can watch. But in the meantime, what I'm going to ask you guys to do is this. In the back, go ahead and grab up maybe 2 or 3 magazines. Instead of going back and forth, just grab 2 or 3 and find a picture of at least half a page of something. It doesn't have to be a face, it can be an animal, it can be whatever you want, but make sure that it's at least half a page to kind of start with.